Assalamualaikum everyone. I'm on the blackboard again, and neatly enough, somebody has already put the word bears on this huge blackboard inside a maths room. I have absolutely no idea why, but it's pretty pertinent to what I'm going to be talking about today. And pretty soon, you guys will discover why. Anyway, so, bismillah. Well, that's nicely placed, isn't it? Yeah, so I'm talking about this psychopathic tranny potter today. Anybody who's heard of him knows about his work. And oh, he's so unpopular, isn't he? Only just won the Turner Prize, the most prestigious award in the history of institutionalized art, whatever, that makes you sell like your worth. Yeah, serious recognition. So poor Mr. or Miss or whatever he is, slash both, Grayson Perry. I have a thing with rhyming names today, I don't know why. Grayson Perry depicts himself as apparently someone who's not very popular, even though his work sells for absolutely thousands and thousands upon thousands, if not millions, nowadays. So he has become establishment. I mean, there was a period in the 80s when he started as an artist that he was seen to be a bit weird, not very accepted in the public eye, but as we'll soon see from when I talk to you more about his work, the context of his work was very widely accepted in the establishment, as we can now tell from the revelations of all these stories coming out about Dolphin Square and the Westminster elite pedophile ring. Why am I talking about pedophilia and occultism when it comes to Grayson Perry? If any of you have seen his work, those of you that might, study art and stuff, it comes as a bit of a shock that the Tate Gallery holds an artist like this who basically glorifies child abuse in such high esteem, to the extent that he's been awarded to the Queen's Palace, which doesn't mean much given given the sort of things you can attribute to the royal family and the cesspool that is their lineage. But the fact that Grayson Perry is taken so seriously by not only the Queen and Prince Charles, who I thought he had a thing against artists that were modern like him. I guess it's the fact that he's a self-proclaimed craftsman that he gets so in with them and rubs shoulders with royalty, even though he's and it has nothing to do with all the child abuse images, of course. Anyway, Grayson Perry is this Mad Hatter character, the tranny potter, or the potty tranny, however you want to say it. Slightly psycho, indulges in the image as well. I mean, very sophisticated, very intelligent, very witty, very sarky, very ironic, very skilled artist, incredibly crafted work. It's no joke. His work is incredibly skilled and beautiful for a change, for somebody so obscene and horrific in his message. So he in that sense, he's a breath of stale fresh air, in the fact that he's churning out the same disgusting and horrific, degrading content, but he does it in a way that at least is appealing to the eye and not offensive in that sense. But you only need to look at it for more than 2 seconds to be horrified by it. Why do I call him an occultist? Well, if you take more than 5 minutes to read about him, you'll realize that in the 80s, his positioning of himself as a film director was with works that he did, like Stephen, A Story of Marriage and the Happy Birth of a Devil Child in London. Birth of devil children. Like that's kind of okay. Maybe that's taking it a bit too seriously. 80s post-punk culture. Everybody was into the bit of the mystic kind of new agey, naff kind of practices, right? Where they were just making fun of the kind of scene that had developed in the punk years in King's Cross and whatnot. But, you know, he joined things like the neo-naturalist movement in the 80s too. And those were people that used to have really primal performances. He draws inspiration from these things of you know, and I just want you to remember that this is an artist that the establishment, that the ring of, you know, educational institutions that are actively teaching our school-going kids how to think about art are glorifying as the best artists of our time. Now, he actively draws inspiration from people calling themselves neo-naturalists that in the 80s drew strong links to witchcraft, paganism, occult, rituals, and magic. And they studied those rituals practiced for centuries and reiterated them in their own form. And you can see that straight away in the work by Grayson Perry. I mean, I don't just have to show you images like this of where his early works in the 80s, where he clearly drew Masonic symbols on his ceramic pieces of work. But, you know, the fact that he has a teddy bear called what's his name? Measles. That he has a teddy bear that he calls Alan Measles, and he basically projects him as this godlike figure. And you know, just a few days ago I sat down and took a look at the Bohemian Grove documentary that was filmed in the 90s. If you've got a stomach for that kind of stuff, I mean, it's pretty freaky. It's going into, I mean, when the news came out again just this week about the pedophile ring undercover plot in Westminster, where a bunch of Tory members of Parliament have been accused of some seriously horrifying and harrowing crimes against young children. I was really shocked to see how something like of that scale could possibly go on, and I really wanted to know what on earth is this. But it took me a few minutes of reading David Icke to realize that, you know, it wasn't just Jimmy Savile, it wasn't just a bunch of Tory MPs in the 80s, but the elitist paedophile ring is international, it's established, and things like Bohemian Grove, which is, I mean, believe what you will, the evidence is in the film footage that you can find easily, of a ritualistic ceremony that takes place every year, where 2,000 or so members of the world leading elite from, you know, CIA to MI5 to members of parliament and government attend a site where a child sacrifice takes place, and all kinds of odd and weird rituals with the worship of this huge 40-foot wooden idol that basically looks a bit like an owl, but surprisingly also like this Alan Measles figure that appears a lot in Grayson Perry's work. And the more he has progressed towards the post Lady Gaga age, where he's become more acceptable and more bought and sought after as an artist, his teddy bear is slowly transforming into the appearance of the Moloch figure that you see in that documentary, which is, you know, and he doesn't shy away or make light to those connections. Grayson Perry has a piece of work that's entitled World Leaders Come to Attend the Marriage of Alan Measles and Claire, and what you'll see is an entire procession of world leaders coming and basically prostrating and honoring and giving homage to Claire, who is the female version, the tranny version of Grayson Perry, and his teddy bear, who he openly decorates and presents as a godlike figure. So the cultish nature of his work, the clear connections to absolute psycho stuff that's going on in the news right now, and where our corrupt elite is going is pretty obvious. And I'm actually, when I first came across Perry's work and the kind of people that were studying him in college for their, I mean, these people took him so seriously, even though he hardly takes himself seriously, apparently, that they embodied the lack of seriousness to themselves as well. And this is a man that not only flaunts himself around as a woman, but he also flaunts himself around as a young child. You know, that's disturbing, again, in its connotations to pedophilia and this image of the sexually confused, blurring of the gender lines. I mean, all these things are becoming incredibly troublesome for people to cope with, and of a generation that haven't grown up with it being thrown in your face 24/7. But the saturation of it now in the media, of seeing men with beards dressed in gowns and all this kind of messed up stuff, which kids are exposed to on an almost daily basis. You know, what kind of psychology is that forming in children that are growing up with this? And forget the fact that he's an established artist where you go to a gallery and you see stuff like this and you're made to consider it the norm. He's actually written books for children about art. It's actually really, his work speaks directly to childhood. If you look at if you look at the colors he employs, the symbolism, the toys, you know, the teddy bear, the nature of the graphics, a child would want to pick it up and play with it and be like, wow, it looks like a toy. And you know, he's constantly employing toys in his. That's a toy gun that he's holding. But what's the symbology associated to it on his dress? And he's being very nonchalant and naff about nationalism here. And look how nationalism causes death. Oh, aren't I being so ironically serious? But then why do you have to have a woman with a burning baby looking like an airplane and a soldier with like killing a baby? And you know, what kind of psychopath? Like, if you're going to go to countries and claim that you have the best civilization on earth, your mental state should at least, you know, indicate as such. And the acknowledgement of people that are supposed to be the most intelligent that you can offer should at least contribute a little bit to humanity beyond death, kill, and rape children. It's just absolutely horrific what we're supposed to swallow as stuff that you have to do to get recognized as an artist. And you know, he is very ironic about the whole thing, like, oh, aren't I such a joke? Because, you know, in the early centuries, men dressing up as women were like the absolute high point of a satire, and it was considered such entertainment, and, you know, like, not to be taken seriously, or just take it lightly. And this subversion of saying things that are very demonic in their nature, you know, the abuse of children, but to say it in a way like, abuse of children, like, isn't that so stupid? Like, to be sarky about it and to be ironic and not serious about it. And oh, this new age, the new age symbols, the mysticism, but to present it in a way that's so naff, like, oh God, you know, what are they doing? Like, are they actually, or maybe the poor things are just, oh, they're just having a party with their mates, you know, like, to present it like that, actually, like, don't take yourself so seriously. But to present it like that is how you basically become sanitized to it, and how it becomes okay to talk about those kind of things. And he himself claims very openly that the aim of his work is to test and push the boundaries of acceptable conventions in both life and art. And his critics, his admirers, have praised him for his constant desire to manipulate the improbable, the unfashionable, and the unacceptable. So what does that mean? You know, I'd like to know what that means. Somebody that wants to probe at and explore the unexplorable, the unacceptable. Okay, so I want to explore things that society thinks is bad. And I want to do what with it then? Make it good? Make it acceptable? So then what are you actually trying to do? You know, that is his aim, and him being nonchalant or not about it. Actually, you know, when someone's just joking around, messing around, and just pushing things a little bit over the edge, you're so busy laughing you don't realize what's actually going on. And again, returning to how seriously disturbing his ideas are. There's a piece that he had in an exhibition titled "We Found the Body of Your Child," and it was a really ornately and beautifully decorated vase, ceramic vase with gold lacquer, and it depicts the death of a child, and the parents are the murderers. You know, what kind of psychology, again, is that in creating in the trust between a child and their parents? Or you might be saying that that's making an established statement of the fact that kids basically learned to hate their parents since the 60s. But is he really changing that notion, or is he pushing it even further? And the colors that he uses, as well as like the litany of toys and trinkets aimed at a certain age range, and clearly make a child want to really go up to it and be like, wow, this is really pretty. And then suddenly when you go a little bit close to it, you're bombarded with sexual imagery. And his commentators are known to liken his work as an S&M nursery, you know, a sadist masochist nursery. How horrifying is that image? And especially in light of the recent news, not only of the elite, what's happening in Westminster, but also of so-called pop artists in popular culture, like the Lost Prophets, for example, who a few weeks ago, who were known to ask their fans, 24-year-old girls, who would have grown up in the same generation as I did and have babies now, to perform weird ritualistic abusive acts on their own children for the pleasure of these weird psychotically disturbed pop artists. Like, and the fact that this sort of culture is glorified in museum culture is really scary. And the neo-naturalists actually went on to claim that their work, neo-naturalists, which is the movement that Perry is associated to, their work has nothing to do with S&M and more to do with the C of E, which is the Church of England, which is a really disturbing statement to make, all those priests and all those stories you hear about little boys. But, you know, he openly claims my favorite kind of art is religious art. And the fact that he uses what already exists. I mean, he's a total genius when it comes to this. When you look at his work, you're really pulled into how beautiful it is. You're pulled into how he's using things like tapestries, ceramics. These are, you know, long dead and long unpracticed art forms that have been dead for ages, but he's bringing them back alive with using digital machinery. Like, you know, he scans up his drawings and pushes them through a machine that prints out tapestries in Belgium. And the results are beautiful, and they're so unexpected because it looks like an ancient 15th century tapestry, but when you read it, it says Starbucks and EasyJet, and, you know, that kind of distance from the from something unfamiliar but suddenly brings you familiar is a huge contrast that's very playful, and it makes you really fall in love with the work. Be like, oh, I actually know what he's talking about, but hold on, it's a tapestry. That's so cool. Like, it's almost looking at yourself in a different time, and like, what are people going to think of our culture like in 500, 600, 700 years? So his technique is incredibly ingenious. You know, credit where credit is due. He's an incredibly gifted and intelligent person, but in terms of his execution as an artist. But no doubt the message, the corruption. I mean, it's nothing short of being possessed to be a person that dresses up as a tranny and openly tries to make performance up. And if you just look into the neo-naturalists and the kind of things that they made acceptable in popular culture, and how closely that relates to the degradation of the way society is behaving in general now, like, I really associate it to stuff like Satanism. And I started this off with Bismillah, and I'm wearing this obviously not because it's a fashion statement or because it's something that's forced on my head. I really believe in these ideas as a way of interpreting the world around me. And there's another layer to seeing deeper than what's just presented to us. There's another way of looking at things, and you don't just have to accept the status quo model of stuff. And sometimes there can be something life-saving in taking a different look at the stuff that is presented in the same monotonous way in every other textbook that you can lay your hands on. I mean, it's all written by the same kinds of people, isn't it? Since when was the last time that you saw a Muslim critic in a serious fine art a piece of cultural criticism? Like, you know, and the fact that constantly his work is referred to as truth and sincerity, I find this really funny. Like, on one end, he's described as the social critic from hell, and on the other end, he's described as being really truthful and honest about the hypocrisy in society. So, you know, this is really, again, the art of subversion that you're witnessing, where you're given two completely contrasting ideas, and you're presented them, you know, you're presented with truth. You're presented falsehood as truth. This is a guy that is dressed as a woman, people. What is honest about his self-depiction? He is not a woman. He's a man. But what he's saying is truthful. So, you know, and Satanism is known for its subvert. What is the typical image of Western image of Satanism? It's when you invert the cross. It is turning things upside down on its head. So, you know, the satanic religion is set up to destroy spirituality. Its ideals of justice exist to destroy. Its ideals of law exist to destroy justice. Its ideas of medicine exist to destroy health, and democracy destroys freedom. Clothes destroy dignity. Anything to do with that occultish ideology is a subversion. The theme is subversion, to subvert everything. And you will constantly find him saying that what I learned most from the neo-naturalists was how to flip things. And yeah, you should take that pretty literally. And as an example, he wears, you know, he wears garments that are clearly underwear outside his clothing. So it's basically an outfit that is not meant to give you dignity but take it away from you. And he constantly refers to ugliness as beauty. So again, and you've seen this becoming really acceptable now in modern culture, which is another reason why his artwork is selling so well. Lady Gaga makes it a norm and she started the trend, and then you've got Nicki Minaj and all these and Rihanna. You know, again, I'm referring to music because it's the seat of where ideas take off fastest, because of the way music and music videos spread in popular culture, and the popularity of it. Ugliness accepted as an idea of beauty, and on top of that, you also have. You know, he says, I want my pots to have dignity, and then he says, despite the humiliation of the imagery I put on them. So I want dignity, even though I'm doing humiliating things. Now, what is that teaching children? So you can still have dignity, even though I'm humiliating you. You know, the subtle implication of that. Even though you're being humiliated, you can still have dignity. Why? Why would you tell someone something like that? What do you hope to achieve? You know, what are you turning their mental state into by telling someone that while I'm humiliating you, I'm actually dignifying you? You're actually completely molding their mentality into a slave model, into turning them into complete slaves. Like, I can do whatever I want with you, but if you think it's not dignifying, you should find dignity in it. You should find dignity in being humiliated. That's psychotic to me, and it's blurring the lines between the decorative and fine art, because, you know, it's very ornate, it's gold, it's ceramic. And it's funny that you know, women are typically at the seat of the decorative in the art world. Women producing art have always been seen as the ones that do the craft, as a secondary sort of You know, the male artist was seen as the primary, and the woman artist has always been given this connotation in Western society of being the secondary producer. It's never been the same in any other culture apart from this weird dichotomy that exists in Western culture between men and women. For some reason, they seem to treat them like they're from two different species. But anyway, so this it's ironic that even to subvert that, he had to dress up as a woman in order for, and he's actually still a man, so they can take him seriously, again in Western readings, so they can take him seriously when he tries to subvert when he tries to subvert the decorative and make it be taken seriously as art. So, and the other thing that he subverts is the image of childhood, of course, being the pedo that he is. I mean, well, off record, I'm not claiming him personally, but it's this, especially his ideas. Those are definitely of that nature. The image of friendliness and cuddliness subverted, showing that there's another side to childhood, not as friendly or innocent. So, you know, children cuddling toys with axes in their hands, and children being killed and shot at by naked adults, children running after adults with weapons, torturing them. Like, what kind of world is this guy painting seriously? And what kind of energy is it producing to see work like this? It's absolutely horrifying. It's just, even talking about it makes me feel like, ugh. But this is the establishment. This is a Turner Prize awarded artist. And if it really is, I want to know, if it really is about subversion and giving two fingers to the establishment, then why maintain all the politeness, the niceties at the Sotheby's launches? Why maintain all the smiles and the giggles in the pre-launch exhibitions, the awkward laughter and the pandering to and ego stroking, and to keep the museum director happy, to keep critics happy, to keep media props up, and to keep intellectual cash cows milked, you know? Why do all that? If it really is about subversion, then why are you still, and you'd think that the fact that he's being so subversive and he's, like, you know, challenging the norm would mean surely his work is like, has completely degraded the art world and has plummeted the image of art for the rest of the world, right? Like, surely art sells now for $100 a piece. Actually, no, while this guy is practicing, art has never been more lucrative. It's actually become the second most unregulated market on the planet, next to illegal drugs. So a piece of art can be worth 115 million. Like, people are actually investing in art like they would invest in property. And it's this kind of work that they're investing in. So what are they getting from it? You know, it's clearly not beautiful to see a child being hacked to death and hold it up as on a mantelpiece. Especially George Osborn. Why are you buying images of child abuse? And what's glorifying about that? I don't understand. And returning to his concept of self-image, you know, he dresses up as a woman because he claims because of his low self-esteem. Oh, that's a really nice thing to tell us women, isn't it? So you dress up as women because you have low self-esteem. So what should a woman dress up as to show that she has high self-esteem? Should she dress up as a man? And because women are seen as second class, so if a woman wants to be seen as first class, again, should she dress up as a man? You know, and apparently that's him personifying the fact that pottery is also seen as second class in the art world. Oh, you're so intelligent. And the profanities, again, like Tracy Emin, that he employs against himself, the pity stories, the sorry stories, how he's needed therapy to get over the fact that his mum had an affair, and his pieces that are very autobiographical and political, turning the personal into the political. Basically, what is the political? It's dirty laundry for the public. So turning his own personal life inside out for everybody to see. We hang it all out there, literally his words. And that is a very literal description of what he does with his own body, as well as what he does with his own life stories and life history, and the history of his family's life as well. You know, would his mum like everybody to know what happened in their life? Well, she doesn't get a say in it, because, you know, personal dignity, self-respect, that's actually gained by being completely undignified in Grayson Perry's version of reality. So what is the negative self-image being conjured up but by behavior like that? And what kind of energy, again, is it creating in the audience? Because it is about energy. And you know, if you've read David Icke, and he talks about other entities, what we in Islam refer to as jinns, and the fact that you know, the energy that you send out it works on a frequency that so other world entities feed off of negative frequency from us, even within the body. Like, you know, if you look at images of violence too much, if you look at images of sexuality too much, it creates a negative response within yourself of adrenaline that actually causes your organs to shut down and function differently. So it's actually damaging to the body, to the mind, to the psychology of the average human being to look at this stuff. Why is it so expensive, and why is it being given awards? I really don't understand. And why is it being pranced and paraded around as if it's something that is unpopular? That's what I'd like to know. Like, I just told you that he won the Turner Prize and that his work sells for thousands. So why are we being force-fed this pretentious notion that he's a total outsider to the art world? Like, the guy's been awarded the most prestigious and recognizable award in the institution. He's, you know, and his self-parody, self-mockery, at the same time he knows how to present himself, and he as well, like his other contemporaries that sell so well, make the claim that it's about how you present yourself and it's about how good of a marketer you are. And he employs all of that to his advantage to sell his work. You know, there's no what I notice about artists like him and Tracy Emin, there's no guilt there about the fact that he's selling himself, and he's very strategic. Obviously he wants to make money, obviously he wants to leave his message to be able to be lasting as long as possible. When he makes these pieces of pottery, he actually says, you know, in a few hundred years people are going to be looking at this and thinking, what? So he constantly draws this parallel between things that he's taken from the past, put into the present, and he projects himself again into the future. So he wants to stick around. And that's him using the art of visualization to actually give himself the confidence as an artist, which is something that I recommend all artists should do that want to be serious and successful, that my work is going to last, I'm going to exist after I'm gone in my work, and what I'm leaving behind is worth value, and it will give me value as an artist as well, because my ideas are of value. It's none of this self-hating, like, oh, I'm just doing it because I like to draw and I can't really draw really. But, you know, there's none of that in these serious artists. They're so confident in their perception of themselves. But the clever thing about him is his naffness, of course. You know, he has a good sense of the absurd. He takes everything very ironically, which is such a British thing. You know, the Brits are known to be so... this has been going on since the 1700s, about how not seriously they take themselves after being, you know, world-dominating, thieving leaders for so many years. When the sun is starting to set on their empire, they start being about everything. You know, oh God, yeah, aren't we stupid? But the fact that he takes these ritualistic, voodoo-esque elements into the everyday and associates them to the everyday. Now, if you just took a superficial reading of his work, and you have to understand that people that go to galleries are not art critics. The average person, the average 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old, 7-year-old even, that goes to a gallery and sees these works are not art critics. What is the message that they're getting when they go and see this work? A war is being declared on good taste and hypocrisy. Basically human decency. So everything that they've been taught to accept as decent, you know, to wear clothes is decent, to not have your everything hanging out is what decent people do. But you go to this gallery and you see this guy with toys depicting profanities all over the place, killing and stabbing people. You know, that, and it's just like, what kind of mental preparation and openness are you giving to children to ideas of what they consume then in their everyday reality? And you know, he's pretty snarky about about all of this, and you know, he's very offhand about it. But he's very offhand even about his work. Like, innovation for me is terribly overrated. He says, I just go to museums, see something I like, and I do my version of it. You know, he's very offhand about things, but in his offhand and I'm not taking myself seriously attitude is a freshness, and he realizes that because people are drawn to the fact that he can be so easygoing about everything. But really, the message behind all of it is so sickening and bone chilling, especially when you read it alongside the headlines that are coming out at such rapid fire pace. Like, you know, Jimmy Savile not only looks like him, but is also a character that also is very close to children and the royal family in terms of being in charge of children's charities, publishing books, being on TV shows, and having this close contact with all these children. And then years later, after his death, all these news spills out about him being a paedophile and a necrophile and God knows what else, and supplying children to people in the elite rings like this, and that's why he was covered up while he was still alive. Whatever, God knows what kind of stories will come out after this man dies. You know, like. The reality is that they're not making light of the fact that they have inspiration drawn from incredibly dubious sources that people who fear God anyway know that you can't be right in the brain if you indulge in images like that all the time. So, I mean, in everyday culture, people that take him too seriously are called haters, and you know, you just want something to rant about. But seriously, artists that want to practice now in the next 50 years, say, because he's going to be dead by then, long gone. But what is your fight going to be in 50 years' time? You know, how are you going to position yourself as an artist post a man like this, post Grayson Perry? What are you going to do? What is your work going to say that to undo or to further or to question, to hold a mirror up to what this guy said? You certainly won't be able to do it through the establishment, because clearly the establishment is pushing some really messed up ideas. So what is the venue that you're going to take your work through? And how will you support yourself through that journey? Because nowadays art is becoming so closely tied to commodity, so closely tied to being able to sell and making it. But really, there must be a better way for artists to actually say what's important to them without having to sell out like this. Like, does every single person have to be Jimmy Savile or Lady Gaga to be famous? Seriously? To get an award and to get recognition, do we all have to be weirdo pedophiles? Because that's clearly the people that are funding this sort of rubbish. Or is there another way for us to make money? Anyway, that's my look at this messed up, at the messed up world of Grayson Perry. I can't believe I made the same mistake twice. Assalamu alaikum, guys.